Bonjour, everyone. Hi. Welcome to the Spiritual Roundtable right here on Star Nations Organization's main fan page on Facebook. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so glad you're going to be with me this afternoon. And for some of you, it's evening, right? Yeah. Today is Monday, June 3rd. And it's a beautiful day here. It's a little overcast, but you know what? It's 70 degrees. I'm going to take that and smile because it's warming up. Yay. And there's no rain. Double yay. Double yay. So welcome to the Spiritual Roundtable. I'm your host, Neshi Lokotz, and I happen to also be the steward of Star Nations organization. It's one of the fun things I get to do with my life. The other fun thing is, I don't know if you can see him. Let's see. Is being a non-furry mom to that little boy over there. That's Georgie. He's sleeping, and not underneath the table. He usually sleeps right underneath the table where my computer is. And so during the live streams, he's usually sleeping practically on top of my feet. But today he chose the love seat. All right, so let's see. Before we get going too far, what I'd like to do is share and like our live stream. And I'd invite you to do the same thing. Even if you just share it with one other person, that's really good. And the reason is, and almost all of the show hosts here at Star Nations ask you the same thing, don't we? And that's really to help us get into the newsfeed a little bit more often. And so that those souls who are searching for these kind of topics, spiritual topics within the shows, and also possibly searching for a spiritual community, it's easier for them to find us, really. And so that's why we ask you to. Now, I'm going to share it over to my newsfeed and make sure that my friends know that I'm live streaming. And then asking them to please join us. There we go. I think I'm going to put an emoji-con on there. I don't use them very often with these kind of posts, but I'm going to. There we go. I'm going to do that one and a heart. There. That's done. It has been a very busy day here today. My house is a little bit like Grand Central Station today. Just a little. All right, Andrea Wright's here. Yay. Hi, Andrea. I know, love the new name. The Spiritual Roundtable. We just recently changed it. It's been through a few reiterations, right? Different styles of what to call this show. Because when I first started, it was really more of an experiment. And then it kind of grew from there. And some people are calling it Neshi's Non-Show because I really didn't have a title for it. And then we were just calling it the Daily Live Stream, which was appropriate because that's what this was. And so this particular name, Stephanie Williams, who is our social media manager, she contacted me, I think it was Thursday or Friday. Both will lead you to the center of the world. Then you will understand. Okay, so you can come to the gift, which is the pipe, first as hope, and then the questioning step. But both paths will lead you to the center of the world. And the center of the world, what they're talking about is our heart, leading to our heart. Yeah, so the sacred pipe, the Chunupa, is, it's used for prayer, always has been. And, in translation from an indigenous language into English, sometimes there's some lost in the translation or completely misinterpreted. Okay, and for this purpose, the sacred pipe, the Chunupa Wakan, came to be known as the peace pipe because it was misinterpreted from the Lakota into English. And so, and somehow that got picked up by Hollywood. And so in some of those old Westerns, and even some of the more modern movies, like Dances with Wolves, you'll see the use of the sacred pipe, right? And sometimes it's called a peace pipe. But it really is a sacred object that is used for prayer. It's said that there's in the Chunupas, because there's more than one, right? That in the sacred pipes there is a spirit that resides within that pipe, and that spirit is your ally, your helper. Yeah, the Chunupa. I like that word, Chunupa. I like the way it sounds. And the last time we got this card, I was explaining that for those who use the sacred pipe west of the Mississippi, they use what's called conchacha. And conchacha is willow bark, and it's shavings of willow bark. It's really fine. And they consider that very much like tobacco. The conchacha, when lit in the pipe, and you draw the smoke in, you just hold it in your mouth. You don't inhale it. You don't inhale it. Yeah. And so when you have your prayer in your mind and in your heart, when you blow the smoke back out of the pipe, or back out through your mouth, it puts your breath, which is also sacred, behind the words, behind your prayer. And so the smoke itself gets embedded with your prayer, and it goes up to the Creator. Yeah. So let's see. Gotta scroll just a little bit. I'm checking the chat. And so we have Deborah's here. Deborah Clark Clemens. Hello, Deborah. It's good to see you in the chat. It's been a while. Yeah, it's good to have you here. Rochelle says, having a hard time with the connection. Oh, that's probably because you're in a rehab, right, for your knee, convalescing, right? Yeah, they're probably not a very good connection there. It comes and goes, restarting my phone, not helping. Yeah, it's probably their Wi-Fi. It's probably not your phone. Hey, and Pat's here too. Hello, Pat. Good to have you here. Oh, so Bonnie's having the same cutting out issue. Oh, the new name of the show is called the Spiritual Roundtable. I'll type that in. Yeah, I don't know. Everything in the studio seems to be stable. So it could be internet issues. It could be Facebook issues. But let's see. I'm going to type it in. There. We'll put that up. There we go. There we go. That's the name of the show now. Brand new name. We're still doing the same thing, same way. It's just a new name. All right, and here is the card. The first card, Chunupa Wakan, the sacred pipe. And here is the meaning of the card, okay? And so the meaning of the card is that the sacred pipe is reminding us to pray for all life, to pray when you need support. It's here for you today to reinforce your understanding that your prayers are heard and will be answered. Yeah. And so it goes on to say that give thanks to the four directions, and all you require will be granted. Pray for living things, those with 4 legs, those with 2 legs, those that swim, those that fly, and those that crawl. Prayer is intricately related to one's personal growth. Let it become part of your daily routine. Prayer brings you to a state of peace, calm, and awareness of higher powers. In the process, you become centered and balanced. Let your prayers come from your heart, and remember to give thanks for all that you have received. So this particular card is really the spirit behind it, the essence of it, is about reminding us about prayer, right? And I know that in our community, in our spiritual community, many, many, many of us pray, right? And we all have, I would venture this, a deep belief in our prayers, or in prayers in general. So many times, we'll specifically make a request. Something's going on in our lives and we could use some support. And so we'll make a post. We'll put a post out there asking for people to pray or to send good energy to us, right? And so, and this particular card, I think, is just helping us to become even more consciously aware of our prayers, and to please to include prayers for Grandmother Earth, prayers for all beings, right? Not just for ourselves. Of course, we can do prayers for ourselves, but many times, sometimes, especially when you're in the middle of a crisis kind of situation, you don't really remember to pray for others. Well, you're pretty focused on what's going on in your life, right? Yeah. I was petting George just before we went on, started the live stream, and now I feel like I have his hair all over me, and I probably do. So the prayer, the sacred pipe, the Chunupa Wakan, it is an ally because there's a spirit that resides in that pipe. And so when we use the pipe, it represents the entire universe, all of creation. The bowl of the pipe is what symbolizes that. When you put the stem and the bowl together, you have the balance between male and female energies, right? And so when you use the sacred pipe in prayer, it will have balance. It'll have balance. Kind of cool, I think. All right. Roberta, Bobby is saying, hey, you lovely lady. Hello to you too, Bobby. Connection is a bit wonky today. Well, dang. Well, you know what I could do? I could refresh my screen and I can see if that makes a difference. Okay, I can do that. I'm putting hand lotion on. Hang on. Let me get it to go into my skin here. All right. So I'm going to try refreshing my screen, and hopefully that will help. Okay. So hang on. I'm going to go away just for a second, and I'll be right back. Hopefully that helps. I'm going to put the thing back up again. Welcome to the Spiritual Roundtable. Okay, there we go. Put that back up. Thank you for reminding me to put the table in there, Bobby. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. So it looked like just about everybody was having a wonky something or other with the connection. All right. Yeah, Peggy's here too. I love the name. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. Okay, so get the card out one more time here. So this is the card that came today. This is the first card. It's called the Chunupa Wakan, and it's the sacred pipe, right? And it was brought to the people by White Buffalo Calf Woman, also her name in Lakota, Pate Sawi. Yeah. And she brought the sacred pipe to the people, taught them how to use it, the meaning behind it. And so this particular card today is, Spirit is reminding us about how we use prayer, when we use prayer, why we use prayer, right? Yeah. That, yes, we should pray for ourselves and more than getting what our wants, right? I want this or I want that kind of thing. But to also be grateful of everything that's given to us. And I know that in our community we talk about this quite often, and we definitely share that trait across Star Nation's community, is the use of prayer and being grateful, right? And so it's a gentle reminder to be conscious, aware of what you pray for, when you pray for it, and why, right? And as I sat with this card this morning, I was thinking about in the vibration, in the energy field that we now reside in, right? Because the energy where we live today is much, much different than what it was, the energy than it was a few years ago. I remember when we first moved to Toma, Wisconsin, and that was back in 2006. September of that year, I taught my very first class from our new home. And it was called Rainbow 12 Gifts in a Song. It was a series. And I have to say that the energy here was much different than what it was where I used to live. Yeah, and supporting my work, it was, I really had to concentrate and be very, very focused on calling in the energy and why I was calling it in, right? And today, same house, same space, and the energy is definitely different. Yeah, it seems I don't have to work so hard to keep the focus. I think that's the best way I can put it. It is different. And so even with that difference, we should be able to go with the flow, right? Is to be able to adapt or expand the way that we pray. Yeah. Yeah. Be really aware of it, very conscious of how you pray, where you pray, why you pray, just to take notice of it at first. And then if you find that you need to do some tweaks to change how maybe you even do your prayers, it gives you some insight, right? Some insight into how that energy is flowing where you're at, because it is different than it was a few years ago. And so the energy behind this card is all about prayer. And we're being asked to remember to pray for everyone, all of our relatives, not just the two-leggeds, but all of them. Yeah. Gotta take a drink of water. And here's another thought. I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this one. I think sometimes we blend together what we call manifesting and what we call prayer, right? To pray for something to be brought into your life, manifesting. Oh my goodness. Look who just popped in. Mervyn Kelly's here. Yay. Good to see you, Guy. Good to see you here. I was thinking about you yesterday. I was wondering how things are going across the pond for you. Good to have you here. We're talking about the Chunupa Wakan. It's the sacred pipe. And it's all about prayer. And I was thinking about how, depending on your belief systems, right, that some people, I think, call some of their prayers what we would term as manifesting something in our lives. And for me, prayer is a part of a conversation. A prayer for me is me having a conversation with the Creator. Asking for something, being thankful for something, having some sort of conversation with the Creator or aspects of the Creator. And the other part of the conversation is listening to what the Creator has to say in reply. And I call that meditation. Yeah. And the reason I even mention the manifesting piece of this is because I think that some people may have a little bit of a confusion over using prayer to manifest, right? Asking for blessings, most definitely. But in manifesting, the law of attraction stuff is to be consciously aware of how you're doing the manifesting, and that you have the emotions or the feelings around what you're manifesting. So if you're manifesting, let's say, a new car, but you want to not just ask for anything that will help you with your traveling from point A to point B, but you want to be very specific about what you want to drive, right? And so it's getting those details. Yeah, pulling in those details, and then imagining yourself driving this car and feeling what it's like, what it smells like in that new car. As Ed Langdon would say, is to try that car on. In other words, the energy of it, and see how it makes you feel. And so your emotions are what's going to bring that manifestation into the earth plane. Whereas prayer, especially when we're praying for someone else, is, I believe, much different. It's much different. Yeah. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? The difference between manifesting using the law of attraction and prayer. To me, when we're using prayer, like I said, to me, it's a conversation. It's a conversation. Yeah, whereas the law of attraction stuff is more about almost command-like statements, Yeah. So there is a bit of a difference. The authors also include a meditation. In this meditation, it says, I seek to become of clear intent in all circumstances. I seek the intention of spirit harmony, balance, and love. Yeah. You can almost say that those are kind of words manifesting, isn't it? All right. Peggy saying, my friend Jennifer became a pipe carrier. She did ceremony for me, pre-op for safety and heading. Ah, that's sweet. Yeah. Pipe carriers. That's another topic, isn't it? Pipe carriers. And Peggy is saying that that was such a very powerful and loving ceremony. I tell you what, some of the strongest ceremonies I've ever experienced have been with the use of a sacred pipe. Yeah. Yeah. Mervin's saying, I'm back from being on retreat. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Is that annual retreat with the Druids that you do? How cool is that? All right, so here's the second card. The second card is Pejuta Wakan. Pejuta Wakan. Pejuta Wakan is the sacred herbs for healing. Okay. And in this picture is a depiction of the 4 sacred herbs. You have cedar, sage, sweetgrass, and tobacco. The sacred herbs. Pejuta Wakan. And it's all about healing. It's all about healing. Now, the sacred herbs, the 4, and it doesn't really matter which Native nation here on Turtle Island, Native Americans, whose story is being shared about the sacred 4. The bottom line is that those 4 were plants that were given to the indigenous people, because those particular species are only found here in the United States. And so the story goes is that especially the tobacco was given to the people so that we may survive. And we use them in prayer. One of the best things about 2 of the sacred 4 is that you can use them for purification. You can use them for smudging. So you can smudge yourself, you can smudge your home, you can smudge your car. We're talking, well, actually, there's 3 of them that you can use for smudging. The cedar, which is what a lot of the indigenous people east of the Mississippi use, is cedar. In the same way that those indigenous people west of the Mississippi use white sage. They do practically the same thing. Okay. There is a way that each one of those plants are harvested. There's spiritual songs that are sung. There's tobacco that's given before anything is taken. And we're taught to only take what you need. And you always leave some of it behind so that it can regenerate, it can regrow. And being grateful for the spirit of that plant to come to your aid, whatever that is. The sacred 4. That would be cedar, sage, tobacco, and Sweetgrass. So here's the channeled message for this, the essence of this card. It says, we speak to you from underfoot, from the side of the roadway, from unpeopled places. We're always here, right where you need us to be. This is our way and our blessing, for we, too, are your relatives. We grow from Mother Earth side by side with you. Whatever you need, there is one of your plant relatives who can restore you. Each of us is unique, as you are. We have different work to do in different seasons, as you do. This is our role, which we perform with the greatest respect and joy. Each of us has special reasons for living, as you do. We're not so different from you after all. We seek to ease your way. Okay? And so those of us east of the Mississippi that use the pipe, we actually use the tobacco. Not conchacha, but tobacco that's put into the bowl. And there's, and for all pipes, there are songs that are sung while you're filling the bowl with either conchacha or tobacco. And you're saying prayers as you're putting the tobacco or the conchacha in. Yeah. So it's a very, very potent ceremony when you're using a pipe, because there's layers and layers and layers, right? And so with this card, we're being told that healing your belief system is the first step in healing yourself, your physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental self. Yeah, so among the agents of greatest healing are self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and self-esteem. Right? So if you are looking to for healing, you can reach out to one of these four. And I have to say that as a space clearer, one of the things that we have to remember to do before we actually use a plant or even a stone or a crystal to help with a clearing is to actually connect with the spirit of that plant. And we're asking them to assist us if they would. And so they're giving us permission to use them in that ceremony, right? Yeah. And so even when you're picking, the cedar or the sweetgrass and that sort of thing, is to be grateful to them and asking them for their assistance, so that you're co-creating, you're working together rather than one dominating the other. That makes sense? Yeah. All right. I got to scroll just a little bit and check out the chat. Bobby is saying, weird energy out in the universe. Hubby even noticed people were a bit more cranky at work. We left the switch in a minute yesterday evening, or felt it, needing to keep cleansed and protected in harmony, balance, and love. Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we got the cards the way that we did today, because it's all about prayer and it's all about the sacredness of prayer. So Mervyn is saying he did go to that Druid retreat. He's saying that we had our retreat in Brittany this year. We explored some of the ancient sacred sites while we were there. Oh, how cool is that? Wish I could have been there. Peggy is saying, prayer for me is the letting go of particular outcome. Manifest is like placing an order. Well, that's a good way to see it. It's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, and and the letting go, the not expecting, right? Not anticipating how how it's going to unfold, but rather to have faith that it will unfold in the most graceful way possible. Yeah. Prayer. I was thinking also about prayer that some of us, we may go some time before we've actually said a prayer. So maybe there's a lapse of time between your last prayer and a current prayer. And generally speaking, most of us only pray when there's a crisis. Generally speaking. But for those that are consciously awake on their path, yeah, prayer is something that is, it helps us in our life to have a smooth flow, doesn't it? Here's the third card that came. Inipi. It's the sweat lodge. Inipi is the Lakota word for sweat lodge. It's about purification. Purification. In the channel message, it says, each day you may be made anew. The power of my gift is so strong, all is cleansed away and all emerges in newness. Your heart will beat like a newborn's and your stomach will cry out for nourishment. You will lay your head against your mother's breast and your needs will be satisfied. Women, honor yourselves. Know that in this female wisdom, your body cleanses you. You got to turn the page. At your moon time. Hold that time sacred, apart, and listen to your deepest voice. Men, I bring you this gift that you may enter into this holy place and release the dust and ashes of the past days in a way that renews. Maintain your ties to your mother, that'd be Mother Earth, and always know the love of Wakan. So here's the tradition information. It says the Inipi ceremony was brought by Kanka to the people as a way for them to restore themselves to the full life of spirit. The ceremony connects all of creation. Fire, water, earth, and air all share in the recreation of Earth Mother's womb from which we come. Crawling in on all fours, one acknowledges one's relationship to all living things. Within the lodge exists the opportunity to redress imbalances and receive a new gift of life. Traditionally, this ceremony of purification precedes all other ceremonies and events of importance. It is used in healing. So the Inipi is about healing. It's about purification. And in this picture, the Inipi is that round structure. And directly in front of the door on the other side leads directly to the sacred fire. Right past the Hochoka, which is the altar right there next to the Inipi. It says the Inipi ceremony was given to men and women so that they could purify themselves spiritually, physically, and mentally and emotionally. One enters the womb-like lodge to be purified and reborn. We learn appreciation of the elements air, water, fire, and earth. In the darkness, we are connected with all of our brothers and sisters on earth. We are all one people. Take steps to purify yourself on all levels, to prepare yourself to take your place in the whole of life. Purification helps you bring you closer to others, cures your anger, fear, and hatred, and all such blocks to unity. Forgiveness and understanding are basic. Accepting and individuality and uniqueness of each. Let love and forgiveness guide your way. Yeah. So the Inipi in itself is a very strong medicine. And I know that there's some people in the chat that has experienced a sweat lodge. Spirit are called in. And so you are side by side with spirit. And some of those spirits have come in to help you heal. Right? Yeah. The Inipi. The meditation for this one I really like. It says, through the gifts of the Creator, I bring myself anew into the world, restored and balanced, keenly aware of the spirit within me and surrounding me. That's a different concept too. The spirit within you and the spirit that surrounds you. All right, and let's see. I'm going to check the chat here. Yeah. And here's Mervyn. He's saying, we had a retreat. Oh, I think I read that one. We did. Okay. Andrea is saying, was it the same tobacco that's used in today's cigarettes or a different plant at that time? It's a different plant. Okay. So a little history, and I'm not an expert at it. Okay. But, several hundred years ago, and what's now known as North Carolina, there was a family of settlers that came in, and they recognized the indigenous tobacco plant that was a relative or similar to the tobacco plants that you find in Europe, because they have their own indigenous, I think, plants there, right? And so what they did was they brought over their tobacco seeds, and they came up with this hybrid where it uses the indigenous tobacco and their tobacco, right? And came up with a new species. So technically, it is not the same. You'll hear indigenous tobacco called Indian tobacco. Yeah. And it's pretty rare to be able to, it used to be, let's put it that way. And I want to say probably in the last 10 years, that has changed quite a bit. In decades before, it was really hard to get your hands on the indigenous tobacco seeds. Today, it is so much easier. We've got some people who have really taken it to heart to harvest heirloom seeds. And sovereignty comes up with that a lot in Indian country. So, so the tobacco, the Indian tobacco, the indigenous tobacco, it's more of a pure quality to it. There's no additional anything to it. And I do have some. We were gifted some tobacco plants, and let me tell you, there's a lot of seeds that come with it when it's dried. And so I do have some. I've gifted some seeds to some other people, so it's kind of like paying it forward, right? Yeah. And it does taste different too. For the pipes that are used east of the Mississippi, because we use the indigenous tobacco, you can inhale if you choose. Many of us don't. I have, but it's not necessary. So, Indian tobacco. Yeah. Yep, I just did. Thank you, Andrea. She says, I didn't know that history. Thanks for the info. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember the name of the family that came over from Europe and started the tobacco industry here in the United States. It'll come to me at 2:00 in the morning. I can't recall their name. Julie Shumway Hill, if you're listening, you might have that information. She's really good at this kind of stuff, to have that information at hand. Okay, so I just want to make sure I got all the information here from the cards that came. But there's only 3 of them, yeah. Okay, so here is something. Okay, so we have these 3 cards. Put them in order here. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first. Here are the 3 cards together. You have white buffalo calf woman, Pate Sawi, who brought the sacred pipe, the Chunupa Wakan, to the people. And it's all about prayer. Prayers for yourself and prayers for all of our relatives. Everyone that resides on this earth. To just not pray for yourself, but to pray for all your relatives too, including Grandmother Earth. And then we have the sacred 4, the Pejuta Wakan, the sacred herbs that are also used in prayer, in purification. And then we have a ceremony of purification here with the Inipi. Should pull that one out. With the Inipi, the sweat lodge, where prayers and the pipe are used in the ceremony, in the Inipi, and so are the sacred herbs used in the Inipi. So it's all about healing. It's all about prayer. It's remembering our connection to the entire universe and everything within it. Yeah. And it's all about prayer. It's all about how we bring our awareness, right? And what we pray for, how we pray for it, when we pray for it. Yeah. And to do it in a good way, as they say, that's because it's coming from our heart. And I think that today's cards are all a reminder about that. Bobby's saying, I want to sweat longer, but was able to do 3 doors. More was at ease sitting closer to the entrance. Need to explore that more. Yeah, definitely the positions in the sweat lodge make a difference. So depending on, okay, so if you're sitting directly across from the door, okay, that is the hottest placement in the Inipi. Hot, hot, hot. Sitting next to the door on either side isn't as hot. And of course, sitting closest, because sometimes what we end up doing is on the inside of the Inipi, depending on who's pouring and how they lead that ceremony, sometimes what they'll do is they'll ask the men to sit in the front near the stones, because it gets very hot there in the front. And depending on how many people are there, there might be another ring, another row right behind the men. And many times those are maybe older women, or have gone to sweat lodge more than just a couple of times. Okay. And then the next to the walls of the Inipi are for those people who it's not as hot there, and they might be new to Sweat Lodge. And many times when you're brand new, you're usually brought in and you're sitting next to or right in near the person who's leading the ceremony, the pourer, the one who pours the water. So where you sit definitely makes a difference. Yeah, and that hot. And the lower you are, is not as hot. So lots of times, if you can get low next to the ground, it's not as hot. Right? And most ceremony leaders in that will allow you to leave. You know, when if you can't handle the heat, they'll allow you to leave. They'll tell you, you know, if you kind of pass the word along, they'll find the most opportune time to be able to let you out. Yeah, they're usually good that way. Andrew's saying, what a wonderful combination of cards and great thought of the day. I think so. I agree with you, Andrea. I really think it's Spirit's way of turning our attention to being aware of how we use our prayers and what do we use to pray with, right? But the most important thing, I believe, is to have it come from your heart. To have it come from your heart. And Peggy is saying, we had a cedar tea in our Sweat Lodge. Did you really? I like cedar tea. I've never had it in the Sweat Lodge, but I do like cedar tea. Where did you go to do the sweat, Peggy? Am I thinking of John Ralph? I might be. Because he actually even took some of the leaves and the seeds of the indigenous tobacco back to England. Right? So he brought seeds and leaves here from England, but he also took the indigenous to England. So it could be, I know that it's a really big industry, has always been. Yeah. So Bobby's saying, I was invited and sat next to the medicine man. Remember, he gave me an eagle feather. It helped to stay. Oh, well, good. Yeah. You know, and they're trained. They're trained to hold the energy of that container. They're trained to be able to hold the spirit of all the people and all the spirits that are in the Inipi, right? And so that's why it's important to know who's doing the pouring. Yeah, Bobby says, it sounds yummy. Would love to try cedar tea. Yeah. In fact, one of these times, I'm hoping next spring, Minnie Kansman, you know, she was going to do a forest therapy walk here at Star Nations Academy here in Toma. And she was going to do that this month, but she ended up moving to Colorado. And so we gave her a little bit of a break to go ahead and get settled into their new place and all of that. And so she's going to reschedule that forest walk for probably early summer, late spring next year. And on her therapy walks, what she does is she gathers some of the local, like the cedar, you know, and she does brew a tea, and so that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Yeah. Peggy said, I was in the Milwaukee area, south on 94, 7 miles fair. Leader named David moved it. Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering because I've only experienced Lakota style sweats. I've never experienced east of the Mississippi sweats. So we'll have to see how that goes. Oh, it's the top of the hour. Julia's saying they did not like the indigenous tobacco, so he got the sweeter Spanish tobacco to make the hybrid. Oh, I see. Yeah, because it was more about the sale, right? Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Bobby. You're welcome. And so, you know, like what I usually say every day, right, is if anything resonated with you with our conversation today, whether it was a word or phrase or the whole thing, is to embrace it, and then watch. Be aware of how the energy is unfolding around you today and where this information could be helpful. Yeah, and if it didn't resonate, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's all right. There's always tomorrow's cards, and those might be meant for you, right? You just never know. Yeah, and so today, or I'm going to say today, no, today's Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we have a couple of shows coming up for you. At noon on Tuesday is Chakra Sessions with Polly Jo LeBay. And Polly Jo is actually sharing with us information about autism and the energy behind or flowing under the autism. And it's going to be a fascinating show. And so she's actually going to do a meditation as well, so a guided one. So that's Tuesday at noon. And then Tuesday night is my weekly evening show, and that is Communications from Home. And in Communications from Home, we're going to be talking about a phenomenon, some people might call it, but that is for those of us who see colored lights, orbs, sparking lights. We're going to have a conversation about that and about spirit. So please join me for that. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Communications from Home tomorrow night. Wednesday is at 7 p.m. Eastern is Polly Jo's other evening show, and that is Soul Connections. And that's all about healing. And really, it's about for those of us who put ourselves last on the list when it comes to self-care. It's an evening where we can bring whatever we would like to heal or release, and to be able to do that, to take care of ourselves. And that's the first part of the show. And the second half is about card draw and reading, a mini reading from Polly Jo. That's on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thursday night, Connie Shearwater, she's one of our elders here at Star Nations. Her show, Spiritual Mysteries of Life, is on at 8 p.m. on Thursday, and she brings us information all about the spiritual mysteries that we have, that we can live today in modern time, right? And so hopefully you'll be able to join us for one of those shows. See you in the chat. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here for the Spiritual Roundtable at 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay? All right. So, Baba Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.